Welcome to my channel. Well, it's that time of year. I really need to switch out the tires on my fat bike and just give it a quick once over. I actually think it's in pretty good condition because I really haven't been able to ride it that much the last couple of winters. And right before last winter, I went and redid the drivetrain, put different brakes on, and did all this work. And then barely was able to use the bike because we didn't have that much snow. So I want to take the studded tires off and just put non-studded tires on. I don't have these set up tubeless. I actually have the Surly tubes in here, and with the Surly tubes, they're actually a lot lighter weight than a regular fat bike tube, because imagine a fat bike tube. They're super heavy because of how big they have to be, and they add a lot of extra rotational weight, but the Surly tubes aren't that bad. So I'm running those. I generally don't want to go tubeless because I switch the tires back and forth. If I had another wheel set, I'd probably do it or be more willing to do it, but we'll see. I do feel like there would be some significant advantages to going tubeless on my fat bike, but I just am not there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and switch these over and take the studs off for now. I also think some of these studs might need to be replaced. I mean, there's a little bit of rust on them, but I don't think that really matters. But before I do that, let me just give some of you that are newer to my channel a quick overview of this bike and what's on it and some of the changes I've made. So let's do that. So this bike is a Salsa Mukluk. It's either a 2019 or 2020. I don't quite remember, but it's right in that range before they got rid of the Mukluk name and changed it to the Heyday. So if you're looking for a Mukluk today, it's been changed to Heyday as the new model. So this bike came with basically an NX drivetrain, and I've upgraded it to GX. So it now has GX rear derailleur. I think it's still the standard NX cassette, if I remember right, because I would have to swap out the driver. And it's funny because I actually have the driver, but then I have to buy a new cassette. So I'll probably wait till this one gets more worn out before I do that. But that would save a little bit of weight if I made that conversion. Pretty much everything else in the drivetrain is stock, except I did add a dropper post to it. And I've changed out the handlebars. These are Spank Spoon bars. These are an older generation of Spank Spoon bars, different than the ones I just recently put on my Transition Bottle Rocket. And then this came with the SRAM guide brakes, the original ones, and they just weren't that good of brakes. So I did end up putting these Shimano brakes on, and people keep asking me what brake they are, and I want to say they're the standard Dior one or whatever, or kind of the entry level to the good brakes, because they don't have that dial adjuster or whatever, but they still have a similar configuration to the SLX and XT brakes, and they have the smaller lever, which I like. You start getting into Shimano brakes that are lower end than this, and they start getting this bigger lever, and they're obviously made for more like commuter bikes and not mountain biking and stuff. So that's pretty much the upgrades I've done on it, and it's a pretty sweet bike. Like, it's carbon frame, carbon fork. You look at it and you think it weighs a lot, and then you pick it up and you're like, whoa, it's not that heavy. So it's kind of surprising. So yeah, I love this bike. Like usual, I put a higher rise bar on like I do with most of my bikes, because I like that a little bit more, a little more upright, a little bit more control, easier to pick up the front end, all of that. Because when I'm out riding in the snow, my attitude doesn't change. If I find an opportunity to jump or send it or whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. So that's just the way I roll. So yeah, that's my Mukluk. So let's get to switching out the So I'm not going to make this video super long and film the whole process of me switching out tires. Honestly, like, it's just changing out a tire. But if you don't know how to change a tire on a bicycle, if you ride a lot or pretty regularly or whatever, that's probably a skill you absolutely want to have, because otherwise, you just get stranded if you get a flat or something like that out on the trail. And modern day mountain bikes, you're usually running tubeless, and then it's kind of a whole different ball game. You want to carry the little bacon strips, things like that with you, and a spare tube usually in case you can't get it. Because really, if you're out on the trail and you have tubeless and you separate the bead from the rim, it's going to be very difficult to get that to reseat without a higher pressure pump. So I highly recommend, if you're running tubeless and you're out on the trail, carrying a spare tube. And what I usually do is I get those super lightweight tubes, so they're not much additional weight. Either the Tubolitos, and there's some other brand that's kind of like a vanilla color that I want to look into. I haven't tried them yet, but they seem to brag about their abilities. But yeah, having a tube like that just in your pack in case you get a flat is necessary. I'm kind of going off the rails here with this video. Anyway, I'm gonna switch out the tires, and we'll talk about the bike and some future plans. And stay with me on this video, because I'm going to talk about the lights too, because that's a big thing. It gets dark around 4:35 in the middle of winter, so I run lights, and I'll show you what lights I use. So just for shits and giggles, let's weigh this tube. I mean, in my hands, it is so light, and I have no idea why. Like, fat bike tubes, usually you get them out and they're super thick. Oh, I better zero this thing first, huh? Zero it. Now we'll do this and just see what it is. 0.68 pounds. And if I remember right, the fat bike tubes that I originally pulled out of here were like almost 1.5 pounds. Because I remember I was shaved off almost 1 pound per wheel when I put these on. So, yeah, that is truth. So, not perfect. I would rather run tubeless. But like I said, because I switch these back and forth quite a bit, it just makes life a little easier not having to deal with the sealant and all of that. But I also don't even have the rims properly taped yet. And that's a whole nother thing where you gotta get the much wider rim tape and tape it and do all that. This is just the regular stock one that isn't gonna air seal. So yeah, definitely some things to consider, but I'm just not quite there yet. While I'm at it, I'll give you another pointer. When you get to this point, if it's really hard to get this last bit of tire in, go down at the other end and push the bead to the middle of the rim. And once you do that, well, of course on the stool it's not going to work. You just can easily pop that in by hand. Like that, when this was out to the edge of the rim, I couldn't get that in, but I pushed it to the middle, and that just popped right in. So quick little pointer for you if you're ever doing tires. This goes for all tires, but especially fat bike tires. So I have the other tire on the wheel, but what I want to do is, before I put the wheel in, take advantage of this moment where I can get in here and easily clean. So that is super helpful. This bike is not that dirty, so there's not a lot to do. But it's still worth checking and just making sure all the stuff is clean, because once I put the wheel in there, it's much harder to reach in all these spots. And then on the wheel, I'm not so concerned about the rim part, because that's easy to clean while it's on the bike. Actually, it's easier because you can spin it. But here in the hubs, you know, clean around where the through axle goes through. Check down here by the disc. Again, it's pretty clean. Maybe reach in and clean the middle of the hub, the back of the spokes. All of that, take advantage of the ease of doing that. Again, the middle of the hub's pretty easy to clean when it's on the bike too, but getting around here is going to be more challenging. So make sure it's all clean and not super corroded. And then I go ahead and stick the wheel back in. When I take the wheel out, I always stick the through axle back in, both front and rear. And the reason I do that is because I have a habit of setting it down somewhere and then I'm ready to put the wheel in. I'm like, where did I put the through axle? And I can't easily find it. So I just stick it back in because then I don't have to go looking for it. It's right there in the fork. And then we get this through. Not sure why it's being a pain. There we go. Get it lined up. The brake is in there. There we go. Give it a little twist. And there we go. Oh, front wheel is in. So, yeah, there you go. I probably have to clean the rotor off a little bit. But if I want to clean the rim at this point, it's really easy now because I've already cleaned the inside. But when it's on the bike, it's super easy to get in here, get this little groove, all of that, right? And you can do it off the bike too, but I just find it easy to do this stuff like the rim off on the bike just because I can sit there and spin the wheel. But I won't get into all of that at the moment. Now I just have to switch out the rear. And as you can see, it's a little bit more dirty back here. So while I have the wheel out, I'm going to take advantage and just wipe this up. It's not super bad, but it's worth it to take advantage of having the wheel out. So yeah, I'll do that before I put the wheel back in. Okay, so that's it. Switched out the tires. It's ready to do some riding before the snow falls and even after the snow falls. And I'll switch back to studs once we have some snow and we start going through these freeze-thaw cycles and you get that layer of ice under the snow or icier trails, then I'll switch back to the studs. But for now, I'm going to be hopeful and do this. I promised I would show you lights, so let's do that. Are you trying to steal the show again? You're pretty good at that. So here's what I use for lights. I have this, I always forget what they're called, but Knight Rider Lumina Dual 1800. I did get this a couple of years ago, so I think they have an updated version of this, but it's a really good light. And then I have this Lumina Max 2500, which is their pro light. So what I like about this one is you have up and down buttons, so you can go up and down and just select your brightness. With the one button type, you have to sit there and press the button and try to decide which level it's at, and sometimes I don't remember the count and you gotta like mess with it to get it at the level you want. And the reason why I talk about that is even though this says 25 or 1800 and this says 2500, one of the reasons it's a good idea to get the most powerful lights you can as the technologies involved and so on and so forth, and battery longevity improves, is generally the way most lights work is in their highest power setting, they will last about an hour. And as the temperatures get colder, they last even less, right? So what I like to do is get the really powerful lights where I don't really need that extreme high power, especially in the snow. I don't need it. I need only the mid power. And the cool thing is in the mid power, suddenly the battery life is closer to 3 hours. So just a recommendation for you is to get the higher power setting light and then run it in the medium setting, and you'll get more battery life out of it when you're out on a trail ride. Because honestly, most trail rides are going to take you more than an hour, and I see so many people have their batteries run out. So A, have your batteries fully charged before you go on a ride, and B, run in the medium setting and you'll get way more battery life out of it. The other thing I want to say is I run 2 lights. This is the wider one that gives you more field of view, and I run that one right on this handlebar clip, right? And I point it kind of down. It's probably pointed where it should be because I probably had that set. And then of course my bike's in the stand going like this, so that would be pointed more out in front of my front tire a little ways. And then this one I run on the top of my winter helmet. And what's nice about that is as I'm going down the trail, this lights the trail down in front of me so I can see the features, rocks, things that I need to worry about down there. And this follows where I look. And so when I'm going around the corner, if I only had this light, I don't get to see ahead and around the corner. But with this, I turn my head and start looking around the corner. I get to see ahead and around the corner or much further down the trail. So I set this one up for looking further down the trail, this one up to light the whole area in front of my bike, and it works really good. It's almost like riding in the daylight. And so much so with the higher technology now and brighter lights, we used to have to ride with such dim lighting, and now we can ride with pretty bright lights, even in the medium setting. I can even jump and stuff like that, which is something that was really challenging to do when you didn't have that much light, because it's jumping, that depth perception and everything, when you can't really see that well, it's very reduced. So you got to be careful jumping. But with these lights, I've been able to jump stuff and things like that, which is kind of cool. So there you have it. That's my lighting. And then just one more thing before I end this video. I hear a lot of people like try fat biking and they don't like how a fat bike rides, or they try riding in the winter and they complain that it's too much effort and this and that. The answer to that is yes. A fat bike is not going to ride like a regular mountain bike. It just won't do it. The bigger tires, definitely riding in the snow. It's a different experience. The idea is you're out biking and having fun, and it's not all about speed or whatever. It's about the adventure. So keep that in mind. If you do get a fat bike, you know, sure, under perfect trail conditions, perfectly groomed and packed snow, all of that, it is a blast. You can just haul. But a lot of times when that's the case, you can almost ride a regular bike or maybe even a plus size tire. But with fat bikes, you just get a lot more flexibility and ride in a lot of different conditions, and they're super fun. They're not fast. They are a workout, and yeah, it is just what it is. So if you get a fat bike, don't have set in your head that it's going to be like riding a regular mountain bike in the wintertime. It is going to be very different. You can run super low PSI, things like that. The deeper, softer the snow gets, the less air you want to run. I get down to 3 PSI sometimes, and so on and so forth. So there you have it. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.